9 days away from the NFL draft. Today, we're going to look at the offensive tackles, the tight ends, and the running backs. Top 5 of the draft class. Underrated, overrated, and who's going to make the biggest splash? This is the Fumlerooski podcast.
It may not have always showed it in the stat sheet, but you can see him making throws when he needs to make the throws.
Back-to-back games where he has 3 touchdowns. Someone's got to get that 6 or 7 spot.
He's an elite wide receiver as a rookie.
Truly a lose-lose scenario for both sides.
This is the Fumlerooski podcast by Power 8018 Radio and Secret Weapon Consulting. Chris Costich, he's CJ Medeiros, the draft guy. Might as well just call this the CJ show. The motherfucking CJ show. Might as well be.
Oh, this is my wheelhouse, so I'll take what I can get.
Truly is. Of course, 9 days before the NFL draft. Today's Monday, the 15th. Drafts on Thursday, the 24th. So, gonna slowly, finally get into draft day and figure out where some of these big prospects are going to end up and finally end some silly-ass storylines as well. But let's get into these draft positions. Offensive tackles. So, number one is Will Campbell. He's the top guy. Automatic.
This is according to PFF, right?
Yep, this is according to PFF and basically everyone and their mother. Most likely going top 5. I don't think that I've really seen any mock drafts that have them going outside the top 5. It's most likely certain that the Patriots will go Will Campbell at number 4. That seems to be what at least the betting odds are. It seems to be what a lot of these reports are kind of starting to wane to. The other top 5 prospects in terms of offensive tackles, Armand Membiu, Josh Simmons, Kelvin Banks Jr., and Gray Zabel. Zabel? Is it? Oh, I said it right the first time?
Yeah, Gray Zabel. I believe.
Hey, props to me. How about that? Come on now.
Good job.
But, CJ, obviously, we've been talking about Will Campbell ever since the Super Bowl came and went, ever since the offseason started. Maybe let's go away from Will Campbell. I mean, you can talk about Will Campbell if you want. But because consensus All-American, basically the only downside that everyone has heard about is the short arms. And even he has came out and said that if you look at the film, the few pass block, run block reps that he has failed in, I should say, it's not because of short arms. So, anyways, back to the other 4. Just talk about these other 4 because we've talked everyone's ear off about Will Campbell for the last however many months. Let's talk about these other 4. Who do you got as underrated guys of these 4 other guys? And maybe who's underrated? Or maybe, take it for how we've been doing it the last 2 or 3 episodes. Just underrated, overrated. Who do you think should be in the top 5 that isn't in the top 5? Or maybe who would you say should be out of the top 5?
I appreciate it, Chris. So first off, we were talking everyone's ear off about Will Campbell. We get it. We know already. Short arms, ooh, scary. The world's ending. Cats and dogs living together and so on and so forth. We get it. Been there, done that. He has 33-inch arms as the official NFL combine measurement turned out to be wrong. At his pro day, it was 33. And that is widely believed the more accurate measurements are actually made on the pro day, but whatever. Real quick, though, I do think that Will Campbell would not be a good guard. And they're like, oh, but the arm length. Counterpoint, he's 6'6", and that is unironically too tall to play guard. So I don't know where you put him. Arms are allegedly too short to play tackle, but 6'6" is too tall for especially a left guard. Then I don't know. I mean, the technique is great. He's a great run blocker. He's a great pass blocker. one of the best football IQs in this class, just great attitude, great leader, insane football IQ, insane agility, but the arm length, yeah, awesome. Yeah, okay, so that's Will Campbell. I still think he's the best tackle in this class, but Chris, you see, it says 32 and 5/8 inches. Me personally, I don't believe that. I'm going to be real. I believe that it's misinformation. I don't care if it was at the combine. He was 33 inches at his pro day. And that is something I do believe. And do I believe that the NFL maybe undersold him to create a talking point? I have no problems believing that. But that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about the who else is there? And I actually have a bone to pick with this guy. Missouri tackle Armand Membu. Now, look, I'm a Pats fan. I'm throwing all bias into the spotlight here. If they draft Membu, I'm going to be pissed, like 7 layers up pissed. Because here's the thing, right? Naturally, I don't care that they say he's the second best tackle in this class. I genuinely don't. I don't really care how good he may or may not be. I naturally value him a little lower because, and if you're listening at home and are a Membu fan, and if you're a Pats fan and want Membu, I want you to listen up real good. He's a right tackle. I do not think ever in his time at the University of Missouri he played a snap, like not even one snap at left tackle. He was brought to college as a right tackle. He played right tackle for 3 seasons. And it's not even just a Pats thing too. If you are a team and your biggest issue is left tackle, don't draft Membu. He has only ever played right tackle, and a lot of teams try to skirt the system. They try to cut corners by saying, all right, we're just going to draft a right tackle and move him left. When does that often work? I mean, whenever it's tried, it usually doesn't pan out. And also, Membu's 6'4", and that's a little on the shorter side for a tackle. Oh, and by the way, his arms are allegedly 33 and a half inches. So he's also below that 34-inch threshold. In fact, I'm sorry to tell you guys this, but most linemen in this class are. Like, the vast majority of them are below that 34-inch threshold. It's weird, but it's true. So if you are a team and you draft Armand Membu thinking you've got a left tackle, guess again. And in fact, I'm willing to double down on this. He's a bigger gamble in the top 10 than Will Campbell is. He really is. Because I would rather have a guy who maybe has shorter arms but can play left tackle at a high level versus a guy who meets the arm length requirement, who has never played left tackle a day in his life. And other than that, Membu's not a bad prospect. He's insanely athletic. He has some serious agility. He's got that pop, as the kids say. He handles blitzes really well, and he's just a freak, just athlete. Big guy, like 6'4", but which is a little small for left tackle. But honestly, I feel like 6'4" is fine. He's light on his feet. He can plug into a variety of schemes. But at the end of the day, most people, myself included, just don't value right tackles as much. And there was this one guy, some analyst on YouTube, who said, well, the gap between left tackle and right tackle is starting to level out a bit. No, it's not. If anything, in this day and age in the Pass Happy League, the gap's wider than ever. The people don't want to admit this, but it's very true. Moving on, we got Josh Simmons. Now, all cards on the table, he's got to be one of, I would say, the more perplexing draft prospects as a whole. I mean, like just in general from Ohio State. 6'5", 317, only 33-inch arms, same as Will Campbell. But I will tell you this. I do believe that he has the potential to be the best tackle in this class. And it is more likely than not that he would have been the first tackle off the board this draft, but he had a patellar tear in his knee last October. And forget season-ending injuries, it's the late season enders that get you, because when you're getting him, once again, like with Membu moving to right and like with Campbell's arms, you're taking a big gamble on him because you're drafting him and saying, okay, I really hope you're ready for week 1. I saw him doing drills and he looked fine. He looked just as strong and explosive as ever. But we all know there's a difference between drills and game speed. Chris, you were a quarterback. You of all people know this. And like I said, it's the knee injury. I mean, sure, he can be over aggressive, but overall, outside of the knee injury, the only thing that I really don't like is he does have a tendency to be a bit grabby up front. Between the last 2 seasons at Ohio State and when he was at, I believe, South Dakota State, he racked up 25 penalties. So, that could be weird. But other than that, he's one of the strongest overall tackles in this class. Great lateral speed. That he has that good burst that can especially help you in the screen game. He's just naturally flexible. And on top of that, he's a left tackle, but he has played it right. And on top of that, he's done both with quality competition, and worst comes to worst, he could hypothetically play guard as well. So he could play literally anywhere on the line. So this is the interesting one here. I want to get this one out of the way. Gray Zabel from North Dakota State. He's 6'6", 312, right? But his arms are shorter than Will Campbell's. And look, do I think it matters? No, not really. However, a lot of people do say, and even me to some extent, that when it starts to get past a certain or get below a certain length, it does raise some flags. So Campbell allegedly has 32 and 5/8 inch arms, right? Although, once again, I don't think that's true. I am more inclined to believe the 33-inch measurement myself. But that doesn't matter, because let's just say the erroneous 32 5/8 inch measurement is right. Then Zabel is even shorter than that. His arm length, are you ready for this, Chris? 32 inches. An entire 2 inches shorter than, what they would prefer. 32. And here's the thing, right? He also has that Will Campbell problem that he's 6'6". So a lot of people, I've seen a lot of draft sites, period, already have predetermined that he's a guard. Like in a lot of these mock draft simulators, they've moved him to guard. But the thing is, he's just all to play guard. I'm sorry. Like, if you have guys that are 6'6", 6'7" playing guard, especially on the left side like he does, then your quarterback's going to have a tough time seeing over him. And don't say, but Mekhi Becton's a guard as your body floods with soy. Yeah, that's a 1-year thing. Cool. And also he plays right side. You can get away with a taller guard on the right, not on the left. And overall, like, if you think Will Campbell's arms are a problem, then if that's the case, then Zabel probably shouldn't go first round. However, once again, he's strong. He's got great technique, just more impressive mobility. He's what they call a combo blocker, meaning he's great at the run and pass when it comes to blocking. So, yeah, he's another one where he'd be a first-round lock even if his arms were 33 inches. But Look, say what you will about 32 and a half, 33, but 32 flat, oh, that's not ideal. And don't get me wrong, he's good, right? I mean, the tackles speak for itself. I mean, the stats speak for itself. Even at tackle in college, 1 sack and 4 pressures allowed in 2024. He's just built different. And then, of course, I want to end with Kelvin Banks Jr. from Texas. What the hell happened here, guys? I don't know. And by the way, I am making none of this up. He literally had an argument to be the top tackle prospect in this draft. And now, on a good day, he's number 3. Campbell's overtaken him. Membu is inexplicably overtaken him. But whatever. The thing with with Banks is that, he's a masterful blocker. The quickness is there. He probably has the best spatial awareness out of anyone in the draft. His hand techniques and hand fighting are top notch. And he's also more than a football player. He's an athlete. He's got skill and natural talent. But he's another one where his arm length is below average. He's 6'4", which they say is short for a tackle, but for me, that's the cutoff. I still think he's fine. And he's light on his feet, but he's not agile in the sense that his legs are very stiff. When you look at his blocking, he
Pause.
No diddy. He tends to bend at his waist rather than at the knees, and that has led to balance issues against Texas. But a lot of these things, like the hip stiffness, you can coach that out of him with some better technique. But, oh my God, man, I don't know what happened. Like, his draft stock just plummeted, went from like a top 10 lock to now there's a real shot he might fall out of the top 20, although I still like him. And there are some whispers that they might move him to guard as well. Heck, even on NFL Draft Buzz, it says he's a high ceiling prospect who could excel either as a tackle or guard. It's just what the hell is going on with this class, Chris? Like, everyone's a guard. I mean, if you're a fan of a team that needs a left tackle, like, this is just not the draft. I mean, they're good, but it's whatever. However, before we move on, Chris, there is one more guy who wasn't mentioned in the top 5 who deserves his love, and that is Josh Connerly Jr. from Oregon. I'm a big Connerly fan, 6'5", 311 pounds. Runs about a 5.05, we'll call it 5-second 40. A 34.5-inch vertical, arm length 33.5 inches. So, I mean, at this point, show me a tackle that doesn't have substandard arms in this class. I'll wait. But this guy is an elite pass protector. His run blocking is fine. Can use a little bit of work, but it's fine. But, oh, man, this is a guy who fits the modern NFL. Elite pass protector, elite body patrol, just clean, efficient, strong recovery skills when beaten, just fluid movements. Like, I don't understand how he's not a first-round lock. Apparently, people are saying his hand placement's inconsistent, and I don't know, and they're concerned about his play strength. But hey, with some coaches, especially like like those higher tier coaches, let's just say somehow he ends up at Kansas City or Pittsburgh or whatever, that could easily be coached out of him. Those are my thoughts. And I would like to give one shout out to Minnesota's Ariante Ursary as well. I think he's going to go in the second round. And he's a gem in the making. 6'6", 331, 5-second 40, just athletic freak, 111-inch broad jump. The 10-yard drill, runs it in sub 2 seconds. This guy, literally big guy, but was a track athlete to a literal potential starter. Just power. That's the name. He is also another one that I take over as a bell. So there's that. That's all I got for tackles. And by the way, Chris, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Those are CJ's offensive tackles analysis. Teams that are going to be tackle needy. Just to name a few, Giants, they're always looking for new offensive tackles because they always suck. Patriots, 52 sacks allowed in 2024. They got the 4th overall pick. Mentioned them a lot of times in terms of potentially drafting Will Campbell. Big reason right there. They went out and paid some money on some on O-line already in the offseason. And if you ask any of the three of us, me, CJ, or Adam, then the left tackle position is the last piece, really, or potentially the last piece. Rams, that's another one that's kind of been a problem for them. Cleveland, you could look at this entire season as an example of how badly they need offensive lineman work. You can look at the quarterback problem all you want, but that's always a problem. Houston, that was easily one of their biggest problems this past year, and why the offense could not really get going at all, and it was extremely underwhelming. San Francisco, Trent Williams ain't getting any younger, and he keeps getting hurt. So there you go. But yeah, that's the offensive tackles. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to look at the tight end position for the NFL draft. This is the Fumlerooski podcast.
It may not have always showed it in the stat sheet, but you can see him making throws when he needs to make the throws.
Back-to-back games where he has 3 touchdowns. Someone's got to get that 6 or 7 spot.
He's an elite wide receiver as a rookie.
Truly a lose-lose scenario for both sides.
This is the Fumlerooski podcast by Power 18 Radio and Secret Weapon Consulting. Chris Costich, CJ Medeiros. Looking at the tight end position, Tyler Warren, Penn State. He is currently at the top in terms of the PFF top 5 for top tight ends. Yeah. I mean, you can just look at the bowl game against, or the playoff game against Notre Dame, and there's your reasoning. Dude's a beast. And Adam, who's been playing executive producer for, I want to say the last month now, has the take that Patriots probably should reach on him, or maybe even trade back and draft him. Could potentially be the next Rob Gronkowski. His words, not mine. Kind of interesting. I think he's a very good tight end, extremely physical. He's very strong, obviously. I would definitely not be opposed to drafting more. 6'6", 261. That's a big motherfucker, that's for sure. That's yeah, you did, Adam. I know that I can already think of a couple teams that could be tight end needy. But CJ, looking at the rest of the list here, Colston Loveland, Elijah Arroyo, Mason Taylor, Terrence Ferguson, Loveland from Michigan, Arroyo from Miami, Taylor from LSU, Ferguson over at Oregon. And just outside of that top 5, just outside of it, got this one guy from Bowling Green, Harold Fannin Jr. Bowling Green. How about that? But CJ, take it away, my man. You know the drill.
So let me just say, Tyler Warren, this man, he's going to be a problem at the next level. Let me tell you, like you said, you already went to the measurables, 6'6", 260-ish, depending on the day. Chris, of course, loves a big tight end. Pause.
But, Jesus Christ.
But what I like about him is that there's a lot of tight ends, most notably Travis Kelce, who they're good receivers, but they don't block. As you know, Kelce is one of the softer players in the NFL. And the amount of times he gets absolutely demolished when he blocks are why I've never really considered him in the best tight end conversation. He's really more of a big receiver than anything. But Warren actually, blocks, which apparently is a rarity for some reason in the NFL. With, oh my God, it's like he actually blocks. Like, that is insane. And don't get me wrong, he's got a long way to go. He's still developing his consistency, but the power and just the motor is there. That's half the battle. And the thing is, as his time at Penn State went on, he was more and more comfortable with blocking. I imagine there'd be some kind of learning curve in the league, but he wants to block. And even if he never improves, he's still pretty solid at it. But man, he could be like a Gronk or Kittle level blocker when he, fully develops. But one of the hidden weapons about Tyler Warren that no one ever talks about in his tight end toolkit is that he's a former quarterback. So that automatically means great football IQ and the fact that he can diagnose the coverage pre-snap and he understands how to manipulate defenders through leverage. He's a former quarterback, so he knows exactly what the quarterback wants. He's got great hands. He's just reliable, natural leader, great football IQ, like I said, and just an absolute beast in the red zone. And not to mention, even though he's like 260 and 6'6", he is deceptively fast. And, after the catch, it's kind of like Gronk or Kittle. Once they have a full head of steam, good luck trying to bring him down. He's a tight end running a sub 4.7 40. So, hey, Tyler Warren, best tight end prospect in this class. And, Adam wants New England to take the old John Mackey Award winner there. And I understand it, but I don't know. But as far as, like you said, like New England goes, I just feel like he's excess. They already have Hunter Henry. 2 more years left on his deal, and I think he's got like capped it of over 10 mil, but whatever. We're not here to debate that. So, moving on to easily the second best tight end in this draft, Colston Loveland from the University of Michigan. 6'6", we'll call it 250, runs exactly a 4.7 40. He's a good football player, but he, first and foremost, is an athlete. He's just got natural hands, great route runner, dangerous in the seam, and also really tough to bring down after the catch. But honestly, the big weakness is that, plain and simple, he's not a blocker. Even our good friends at NFL Draft Buzz say, and I quote, plays like an oversized receiver. Because at the end of the day, that's what Colston Loveland is. He doesn't block as often as you'd want. And I know some teams aren't bothered by that, but if you're a tight end, you should be able to do a little bit of everything. And he's very raw. And honestly, it's not that he can't block, I would say. It's that he was never really asked to in Michigan. And that's going to be a steep learning curve in the NFL. But just as a pure pass catcher, he's very worth a first-round pick. So, yeah, I would definitely say that he's earned being a first-round pick. I know he has battled some injury, but nothing like super scary that would make you concerned for him in the future. So there is that, just to think about that. And as you can see, 7th Big Ten yards per reception, just dominated at Michigan. So, hey, hats off to the guy, am I right? So, moving on, more tight ends, I want to talk about Elijah Arroyo from the U. Oh, man. One of Cam Ward's favorite targets. He's 6'5", 250. You may be a little light for a tight end, but as a whole, I mean, there's not a lot to hate about him. He's a good route runner, right? He runs a 4.7 40, great route runner. Once again, just good, natural, soft hands, for the football paws, I guess. He's also someone who's just very much a power player with the ball in his hand, if that makes sense. Some tight ends like to dance around a bit, juke, spin move. Arroyo doesn't do that. He's just going to run you over. He quite literally has, as the kids say, that dog in him. For me, the only real concern I have is that he now has consecutive seasons that have been derailed by knee problems. And the worst part is it's the same knee, the left knee. He's already racked up quite an injury history in college, and that's like the only thing that I think really keeps him from being a top 4. And who could forget Mason Taylor from LSU? Oh boy. About 6'5", 250, I think, so roughly the same size as Arroyo. Just great spatial awareness. He's a really fluid athlete. Not one of my favorite tight ends, but if you're getting a fighter with him, you're definitely getting a good locker room guy. You're getting a reliable target. You're getting like a good red zone threat. But this guy just can't block worth crap. He can't. And if you thought Loveland was bad, Taylor just flat out cannot block. Also, his route tree could use some refinement. He's more of you throw it to him and he catches it. His cuts are kind of rounded, lots of wasted motion, but I won't want to say project because that makes me sound like a jerk, but yeah, he's a good project tight end. And if he goes to the right system, this guy's really gonna develop. And then finally, also in the top 5, like you said, Terrence Ferguson from Oregon. He's 6'5", that's good, but depending on who you ask, he could be sub 250, which isn't good for a tight end. He does run a 4.63 40, 39-inch vertical jump, 122-inch broad jump, runs the 10-yard drill at about 1.5 seconds. That's insane. He's, once again, this guy, he's more of an athlete than a football player, if that makes sense. That seems really harsh. But that athletic prowess is going to serve him well in the NFL. He's, like I said, the real issue is that he's, got a leaner frame, doesn't really have that top end speed you want. It doesn't really maintain his blocks, but the strengths are there. Those can be coached out of him. Well, maybe not the speed part, but he's still got good speed. Don't get me wrong. I mean, just because he can't kick that second gear doesn't mean he still can't give safeties a slip, which he can. Just great body control, great awareness from the balls in the air. Just makes these acrobatic catches day in and day out. He's not a great blocker, but he's a willing blocker. And if he's willing to learn, he can become a good blocker. And he can line up in the slot, in line, and there have been times where he's even lined up out wide. So if he's just because he's not the best at anything doesn't mean that he's going to suck. He can. I mean, he's got the potential. He can do everything, and I think that he definitely has that want. But then before we move on to running backs, there's one guy that you mentioned, Chris. This, for me, is one of the big wild cards of this draft. Harold Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green. Hey, shout out to the MAC conference. So he's really undersized for a tight end. He's 6'3", 6'4", depending on who you ask, 241. He runs a 4.7 40. That's pretty good for a tight end. He doesn't really stand out really in anything. 34-inch vertical, 118-inch broad jump. Like those are fine above the 60th percentile, but that I don't know. It's like there's a reason he's not going in the first round, and it's not even just because I can point at him and go, "Ha ha, he went to a smaller school." No, it's not even that. But a lot of it is that he's really undersized for a tight end. His play strength isn't really there. It's very limited. And the level of competition that he faced in the MAC doesn't really match up to what he's going to face in the NFL. Also, sometimes he struggles with his release packages and because he's kind of lighter for a tight end, Fannin does get jammed at the line sometimes by those really physical corners. But oh my God, his route running is insane. He's probably one of the best pure route running tight ends in the league. He's dynamic after the catch. He can literally line up out wide over a quarter of the time. He makes these insane catches, just able to come down and bound, great body awareness, and 26 receptions of 20 or more yards, I believe, last season, and averages over 13 yards a catch for his career. So I definitely think he's worth taking a flyer on in round 3. Do not sleep on Harold Fannin.
I like it. Harold Fannin, man. It's something about it. Makes you think he's gonna pop off. It's one of those like weird, like Bowling Green, obviously being like not a great school, being in the MAC and whatnot. But no disrespect to the MAC, they have some very entertaining games. But that's one of the it's an interesting one. Looking at teams that need tight ends, Jacksonville. They don't have Evan Ingram anymore, right? Or do they still?
No, I think they traded him. I'll look at
oh yeah, no, they traded him. That's right.
Yeah.
So
Denver or something.
that's
like
right.
that?
I was blanking for some reason. But now your tight end is Bretton Strange. It's not great. 40 catches, 411 yards, 2 touchdowns last season. Kansas City, Travis Kelce isn't getting any younger. And after that is Noah Gray and other guys that I just couldn't give you names on. No disrespect to Noah Gray. Shout out Central Mass. But yeah, Jared Wiley and Anthony Ferkser. Who? Indianapolis.
Titans legend Anthony Ferkser. Yeah.
Is he a Titans legend? I don't know. You tell me.
Sure.
You tell me.
Yeah, Titans legend Anthony Ferkser. Never forget.
All right. My bad for forgetting. Indianapolis. Honestly, let's just throw all of the. Might as well just start throwing all of the AFC South in here. But Indianapolis, Drew Ogletree, Will Mallory are your top 2 tight ends right now. Mo Alley Cox is in there. Don't forget him. Do not forget him. But
you know who I wouldn't hate taking him? I mean, it's the Panthers.
The Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, you have Tommy Tremble and Ian Thomas, and if I'm being honest, they don't do anything. And if you want to give Bryce Young the security blanket, I got news for you, kids. This is the draft to do it. It's a very good tight end draft. One of the better tight end drafts we've seen in a bit these days.
Yeah. But that is our review of the tight ends for this upcoming draft. So we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, the running backs. It's led by Ashton Jeanty, but who's behind him? This is the Fumlerooski podcast.
It may not have always showed it in the stat sheet, but you can see him making throws when he needs to make the throws.
Back-to-back games where he has 3 touchdowns. Someone's got to get that 6 or 7 spot.
He's an elite wide receiver as a rookie.
Truly a lose-lose scenario for both sides.
Welcome back to the Fumlerooski podcast. Power 88, Dean Radio, and Secret Weapon Consulting. He's CJ Medeiros. I'm Chris Costich. Looking at the running backs for this upcoming draft. Everyone knows it. Ashton Jeanty, he's at the top. Boise State All-American. Runner-up for the Heisman Trophy. But who's behind him? Well, some other pretty solid backs. Omarion Hampton from North Carolina. Cam Scatabo from Arizona State. Really, really showed out. He really impressed a lot of people in that Texas game. He's number 3. Behind him, Dylan Sampson from Tennessee and from Iowa. They might have had a shitty offense, but they have a damn good running back, Caleb Johnson, rounding out the 5th spot. And then after that, a couple of Ohio State guys, Trevion Henderson and Quinshawn Judkins. CJ, You know the drill. Let it rip.
This is an insane running back class. I don't think I can overstate this enough. I don't want to spend too much time on Ashton Jeanty because let's be real. There are 3 blue chippers in this draft, and he's one of them, right? And I've said maybe there's 4, depending on how you view Mason Graham from Michigan. But yeah, so it's Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, and Jeanty. Jeanty, this guy, look, the biggest knock on him is that one, I'm going to be real with you. He did not play the best competition in college, being from the Mountain West Conference. I mean, sure, he, tore up Oregon earlier in the year, but Penn State held him to under 4 yards a carry. And even still, it was like 4 or 5 guys tackling Jeanty at a time. And there was no like one dude bringing him down. And he's also undersized. He's 5'8", 211 pounds, and his height puts him in the 8th percentile at running backs. That is for running backs. That's bad. That is actually really, really bad. But oh man, he is a workhorse. And I know these days they say, your running game's not important anymore. To which I say, my fellow Americans, did the Philadelphia Eagles teach you nothing? I'd argue the running game is still important, but I digress. I'm trying to think of how to put this. So yeah, basically the real issue is that 1, didn't play the best of competition, and 2, he's just really undersized. But everything else, and literally everything else, is great. Guys hit him all the time. He doesn't go down. His vision is insane. He's got good burst and good long speed. He's a really interesting receiver out of the backfield as well, being willing to contribute to an offense however he can. He is the true definition of a workhorse. He even blocks. He's not the best blocker, but he could definitely chip an incoming blitzer and buy your QB that extra second. And he's a low runner. And look, sure, he's shorter, but hey, low man wins, especially the NFL. He keeps his pads square. He's got a great football IQ. He's everything you want. And I feel like any team would be lucky to have him, but I don't know how much of an issue O-line is going to be for him because Boise State didn't really have the best offensive line, and he still put up over 2,000 yards and was Heisman runner-up. So don't sleep on Jeanty is all I'm saying. He will go top 10. I'd be shocked. I would be stunned if he didn't. Now we're moving on to the consensus number 2, and another guy who's getting a lot of first-round buzz. In fact, I personally have him going in the first round. Omarion Hampton from the University of North Carolina, a school known for producing Drake May. He's 6 feet, 220, and just a violent runner. Always picks up yards after contact. Just natural feel for the game. Fluid mover, elite burst, breaks tackles, and can even excel in a power scheme, even though he's one of the more agile running backs. But he's just, his weaknesses aren't really world enders, if that makes sense. He's a willing blocker for pass protection, but there are too many times where I've seen Hampton just straight up get tossed aside while trying to block. And he's agile, right? And that's it's true, but he's not creative with his agility. He too often relies on cut moves, and honestly, he could be a little more patient. Kind of remember how Le'Veon Bell would straight up wait for an entire second behind the offensive line? That's something I think Hampton could learn from. He's like I said, he's too much of a one cut kind of guy instead of actually trying to make the defender miss. But overall, Hampton is going in the first round, I do believe. And then after that, with all these other running backs, I'm going to tell you this right now, people. It's Mad Max out there. It really is. Because for example, the third ranked running back according to PFF, Cam Scattaboo from Arizona State, he overall isn't even a lot of people's top 5, or some don't even have him top 10, but don't sleep on him, okay? 1,700 rushing yards, 21 rushing touchdowns last season, along with 45 catches. He's kind of undersized. He's 5'10", 219. But this guy is the definition of a dog. He really does have that dog in him. He's got really good power, really good forward lean, and even one of his comparisons, at least when it comes to traffic, is a smaller Maurice Jones-Drew, at least according to NFL Draft Buzz. It reminds me of a younger, smaller version of him, which is true. He's just got really good balance. The way that he gets hit stick sometimes and he just won't go down. He has that elite balance. He's a patient runner. And he's a really skilled receiver as well. His route tree is actually pretty solid for a running back. But the big issue is the long speed. He's fast, but he doesn't have that burst. He can't get to that next gear. He runs a 4.6, or some would say 4.65 40. And defenders have often ran him down from behind. And but that can be dealt with, especially if you're as powerful as he is. He's a power back. But for me, the major concern is ball security. Over the past 3 seasons, he has 10 fumbles. That's something that Cam Scattaboo has to clean up, and I think he can. Then, this is one of the more intriguing running backs in my eyes. Number 4 ranked in PFF, Dylan Sampson. A lot of people don't even have Sampson top 5, and I'm here to tell you right now, that's a mistake. This guy, just explosive, averages almost 6 yards a carry, 22 rushing touchdowns last season, almost 1,500 yards. He's just something else. A 4.42 40, but much like Ashton Jeanty, he's only 5'8". He's really undersized. He doesn't even weigh as much as Jeanty either. He's like 200 pounds on a good day. He's got a quick first step. He's got good burst. He's fast. He's quick. He's agile. He's got these nasty jump cuts, a lethal spin move. He breaks defenders' ankles day in and day out. But the question is, Jeanty at least has the power to be a feature back in the league. Does Sampson, who is significantly lighter than Jeanty, have that same ability? I'm not entirely certain. And he's very one-dimensional. That is the biggest knock on Dylan Sampson, though, to me. He's extremely, and I mean extremely one-dimensional, as in, like, he's basically not a receiver at all. And on top of that, I still like him, though. Then there's Caleb Johnson. Don't waste too much time on him, because I don't. Okay, that sounded harsh, but whatever. He's really more of a power back than anything. He runs a 4.57 40, which isn't great, but honestly, I still think he's fine. He's probably going to go in the 3rd round. And I want to give a quick tip of the hat to the Ohio State boys, Travion Henderson and Quinshawn Judkins. The teams that get them, they're going to be great. I don't see either of them going in the 1st round, but if you take a flyer of them late round 2, early round 3, you're going to be happy with what you get.
It's crazy to like Travion Henderson and Quinton let me try that again. Quinshawn Judkins and Travion Henderson both had extremely amazing years over at Ohio State, especially ending it with a ring. And if you put them in any other draft class, they're probably top 5 in that draft class. This is just an insane slate that we have here for this season, or for this draft, I should say. Teams that are going to be running back needy. One that jumps to my mind immediately is Vegas. Right now, if you were to look at ESPN's depth chart, their number 1 guy is Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert is old as fuck. So I want to get a different guy over there. And you've been working with Sincere McCormick, Zamir White, Alexander Madison last season as well. It's a team that was last in rushing yards per game last season, less than 80 yards. That's bad. That is bad. Another team that comes to mind, Dallas. Last year, they were rolling with fucking Zeke. Old-ass Zeke. Now they're looking for the next guy up. They could have had Tony Pollard. They could have kept him. But now he's in Tennessee. Right now, your top guys are Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. Deuce Vaughn is your third. Malik Davis is your fourth. No disrespect to Javonte Williams. I think he's a fine running back. But you're not going to have a good 1-2 punch when you add in Miles Sanders into that mix. That's for sure. They also had less than 2,000 total rushing yards last season, which was 27th in the league at 1,705. Fifth worst in the league in rushing yards. Total, I should say. Total rushing yards. I think Vegas, though, jumps to mind pretty quickly because they're a top 10 team in the draft. Give me 1 minute because I'm trying to refresh my memory on where everyone is. Vegas is at 6. Jacksonville's at 5. I feel like Vegas is going to be primed to go grab Ashton Jeanty at 6 because Jacksonville already has Tank Bigsby at running back. I don't think that they're going to be looking for that position for this draft, especially at 5. So I fully believe that if Jeanty's going to go anywhere, it's going to be number 6 in Vegas. In terms of everyone else, I don't know. It's odd, too. When you look at PFF, they say that no one else needs a running back, which if you were to look at any team's depth chart, you could probably make that argument, which is very interesting to say. But, yeah, Dallas and Vegas, though, those are probably the two teams that most undoubtedly need to attack for running back this draft. Was there any other teams in mind that you want to throw out there?
No, I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head. I do want to say, though, I don't know if you heard the story, but it did come out that the John Spytek, the GM of the Raiders, said that his son wants them to draft Jeanty, and he's been very vocal about it. So, dude, don't pull a Woody Johnson. Don't do it. Don't do it just because your kid said so. It'd be very funny if you did, but still.
For real. Adam wants us to talk about the Chicago Bears running back core, apparently. DeAndre Swift, Roschon Johnson. That's currently your running back duo right there.
You could use some depth, but I don't know if they'd go with Jeanty. I just don't.
Yeah, no. And plus, you have the 10th pick. I don't think that Jeanty's going to drop to the 10th spot as well.
Unlikely.
Like you mentioned, you don't think Jeanty's going to get outside the top 10. I don't think he's going to reach 10, period. Like I said, I think that he's going to just miss the top 5 because Jacksonville doesn't need a running back. But yeah, DeAndre Swift is an interesting thing though, because, you know, he had an amazing season in Philly and then he went to Chicago and he looked like dust. Not dust, but he didn't have as good of a year as I think most people would have thought. Under 1,000 rushing yards. You know, the O-line was obviously a massive problem, but he also wasn't helping himself out. Wasn't really finding the holes where he needed to be. But
yeah, I still don't think it's worth replacing him. I mean, even if you do trade up for the Bears, I just don't think it's a great idea.
Maybe you draft someone that pairs up with him, if anything.
Yeah, like Judkins, I think would be a good pick, or Henderson.
Yeah, like I can understand going away from Roschon Johnson or bumping him down to RB3. Steelers, you could also throw in the Steelers as well. That's a team that parted ways with Najee Harris. He's now in with the Chargers. Sorry, I'm trying to look at the depth chart right now for the Steelers, and it's only showing me the defense.
Chris, the Steelers really don't have anyone at running
No.
back. Honestly, same thing with the Chargers too. I could see LA and Pittsburgh going running back at some point, probably for the first 2 rounds.
So
I've
in
seen
terms of
Hampton
running,
knock Pittsburgh a bunch, so yeah.
in terms of running back for the Steelers, your top 2 guys are going to be Jalen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell, throwing Cordell Patterson as well, but he's 34 and old. No disrespect to Cordero Patterson, legend, but Jalen Warren is also a fine running back, but you're also probably going to need to find some. It's kind of the DeAndre Swift situation. You're probably going to want to find someone that pairs well with him. I think Kenneth Gainwell is solid, but that's not. I don't know if that's necessarily the RB2 that you're going to be looking for here.
Yeah, I definitely think Pittsburgh would be wise to maybe go Hampton round 1. I think he'll still be there at 21, but unless they go quarterback, which don't, it's not a great idea.
Yeah. I guess that's also like Pittsburgh, though, right? All the teams that they've won a Super Bowl with, obviously they had Ben Roethlisberger, but they had an extremely strong running game as well. So there's that. Chargers, they got Najee Harris. They haven't re-signed J.K. I thought they did. What? For some reason, I thought the Chargers did re-sign.
They did not, Chris.
Man, that's assuming, man. You know what assuming does? Makes an ass out of you and me. But yeah, they haven't re-signed J.K. Dobbins. I think that's bad. I think that's a bad idea if they don't re-sign him. But say they don't re-sign him. Najee, Kamani Hall, Hassan Haskins. Those are your top 3 running backs right there. So kind of the same thing. Maybe you want to get another guy in there. Kamani Vidal is also in his second year. Didn't get too many reps. 43 carries, 155 yards, just south of 4 yards carry. This is going to be his second year. So, and he was a 6th round pick. So you never know. All right, Adam. Patriots running backs,
they could definitely use some depth, I think.
Yeah, they could definitely use some depth, but for someone that loves to keep the show short, you're really giving us a little too much here now. I think that the Patriots could use a running back, but that's not their biggest issue. Mondre does have his fumbling problems.
Well, that was more of a Mayo thing. That didn't really happen until last year.
Yeah. Antonio Gibson, they technically only have 3 running backs right now on the roster too. So it's those 2 and Terrell Jennings. Who?
True.
So yeah, that's all of our scheduled content for today. Other NFL news: Jalen Ramsey is going to be shopped around now. Dolphins and Jalen Ramsey are currently going to be working out a potential trade. So maybe that's a draft day trade right there. Maybe something gets done within the next week. I would definitely keep an eye out for that. Other news: Tyron Smith set to sign a 1-day contract and retire as one of the organization's all-time greats with the Cowboys after being with the Jets. But 5-time All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler, played 13 amazing seasons with Dallas, and then spent a unfortunately abysmal final season with the Jets. Not saying he was abysmal. I'm saying the Jets are abysmal.
Yeah.
So congratulations to Tyron Smith and to a happy and healthy retirement.
Future Hall of Famer. Good for him.
Yeah.
I really am.
That can go without saying that he is undoubtedly a future Hall of Famer.
Yep.
Anything else you want to touch on before we end the show?
Nope. Because if we go over an hour, Adam's going to throw rocks at me probably.
All right. Well, I got 35 seconds, so I'm going to try to make this quick. That'll do it for us tonight, though. Thank you for tuning in. New episode coming out on Friday at 5. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we also have all our episodes available on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and so much more. Be sure to follow our Instagram, Fumlerooski_podcast, to keep up with pod and the latest coverage on the NFL. Otherwise, I'm Chris Costich. He's CJ Medeiros. We'll see you on Friday. Over and out.